Still Team Human with heart, empathy, and love. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Still Team Human. I'm your host, Francesca Di Meglio. This is where we discuss how to keep people at the center of our work, even in the age of AI and other advanced technologies. This is where we elevate the human and understand how people can ensure the new world fits around their best interests. Today, the guest is simply me, myself, and I. We're going to have our first Still Team Human Confessional podcast, during which I will address a specific topic of interest. And today's topic is all about diversity, equity, and inclusion, also known as DEI, and perhaps as the dreaded D word to some of you. That's not how I feel, and we'll get into that in a minute. Let me start at the beginning by sharing an explanation of what DEI is and is not. First of all, I'm going to be using a notebook and revealing my age. I am old school, and we'll talk about that too in just a little bit. So, DEI, according to the Google AI overview, is, quote, a framework designed to build fair and supportive environments by acknowledging and valuing differences, addressing systemic barriers, and ensuring everyone has access to the resources and opportunities they need to succeed. This is a very simple way of discussing DEI. It includes the three words diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I see it as simply a means to providing a level playing field so people have similar opportunities to advance their careers and themselves, and we can all figure out where we belong and how we can fit in best. And I think that while it has been shared by some as a discriminatory type of practice or as not a meritocracy, I actually think it is exactly a meritocracy. That's actually the point of DEI. It is to ensure that no matter who you are, you're going to be judged by your work and your abilities and your values and how you fit in with the group, as opposed to everything else that might be creating biases within fellow colleagues, employers, etc. Anyway, we're going to break this down now by the words. So the first word is diversity. And diversity is the presence of different groups within an organization. So different groups can mean many things. Often, when we think about diversity, the most obvious ones that come to mind first are race, gender, and religion. And yes, this is among the diversity that we're looking for in any group that we're trying to join or participate in some capacity. This can also mean other things as well. This can also mean different socioeconomic groups, and it should mean that. It can also mean the different backgrounds of the place you come from. So ethnicity. I am an Italian American. People I've worked with have been Arab Americans or Japanese Americans, for example. And so you get the idea. Could also be within the United States, the different states you come from, because they have different personalities and personas and mean you come from a different experience. Someone from Texas has different viewpoints and experiences than someone from my native New Jersey, for instance. People from the different coasts have completely different perspectives often. And so these are the different backgrounds. It can also be what you studied. Sometimes in creating a team for a different innovation or to solve a different problem, you may want people who studied science alongside those who studied the liberal arts, for example. And often that's something we see. I can tell you in covering business schools for the amount of years, the amount of time that I have, I've noticed that there have been different periods of time where admissions programs at different business schools have sought people from liberal arts backgrounds to join the business background students, simply because it creates a more innovative, dynamic environment for studying and for solving problems. Okay, that handles diversity. The next word is equity. Equity is, quote, focuses on fairness and justice, ensuring everyone receives the specific resources and support that they require. This again is the idea that we're going to have that level playing field. We're all going to have access to the same opportunities, the same resources, the same support. We all can get uh, on the ground at the same time, and then we can see who excels and who doesn't. And that will provide that meritocracy idea. I think that DEI is actually the framework for a true meritocracy, and we'll talk more about that throughout this. So the final word is inclusion. And this one, I mean, for me, this one is a no-brainer. I don't understand an argument against it. And I think that every human should desire this or does desire this just by our very nature. And this is, quote, according to Google AI overview, the practice of creating an environment where every individual feels welcomed, respected, and supported. That's what we all want, right? We all want to walk in the door and feel like we're part of the team and that we can be comfortable enough to share our ideas and we won't be judged and we can fail and nobody's going to be upset about it. We can learn from those failures, work as a team to solve these problems and arrive at great destinations, big innovations, big problems solved. And that requires this level of comfort, this level of security that we provide to one another by being inclusive. What does that mean? That could mean something as simple as saying hello to your, pod neighbor. It could be something as simple as asking someone to join a certain meeting where you're having a discussion on something that they might have great ideas about. So, inclusion, I think, is a no-brainer. We don't even have to think about it. We all should be being inclusive and we should all be included when we join a company or are even there for many, many years. Okay, now I want to share with you before I get into the political dilemma that has been launched in the last couple of years that has kind of dismantled DEI and put it in the crosshairs of politics. I wanted to read a quote from the NAACP's website, and this comes from Keisha Bross. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. She is the Director of Opportunity, Race, and Justice. And she says, diversity, equity, and inclusion are not trends or political warfare, but the foundation of civil rights and a chance for progress and opportunity. Again, this furthers the argument that I've been making that this is the road to meritocracy. This is the way to get people to have that level playing field and to get the same opportunities to excel. And this is also how you get the best out of people, you know? If you're giving people a chance, they're going to give you that much more of themselves. And, you can bring out the best in them. And that's what a great leader does. So DEI is also a path for great leaders to excel. Anyway, another statistic that is very important that I think speaks to this inclusion and also the appeal that it should have, that DEI should have with employers. 67% of job seekers consider workplace diversity an important factor when considering employment opportunities, and more than 50% of current employees want their workplace to do more to increase diversity. So people want this. This is not something that the average person is boo-hooing about or angry about. People want diversity. They recognize how it helps them do a better job. And beyond all of that, beyond the statistics, which I'll share in a few minutes about how this can improve the bottom line and make your business better, it also makes our individual lives better. It's pretty boring when we're all cookie cutters coming from the same place, the same time, the same perspective. And life is a lot richer and a lot more enjoyable when you have different people to talk to, who have different influences, who come from different places, and who can share a wealth of different experiences with you and make you see things from a totally different side. Anyway, now to explain the ramifications of what's happening in the political scene and why DEI has maybe fallen out of favor in the business world. So, couple years ago, President Donald Trump was reelected for a second term after Joe Biden had had one term as president. And when this happens, President Trump issues an executive order entitled Ending Radical and Wasteful Government DEI Programs and Preferencing. Now, the title alone is important to look at. Preferencing indicates that Trump and the people who support his idea for this executive order believe that DEI is a form of discrimination, how it is giving people, because of their different race or different religion or different gender or different sexual orientation, whatever the case may be, a type of preferential treatment. That's not how I see DEI. I've covered this for many years. That is not how any of the companies that I've spoken with had utilized DEI frameworks. And in fact, discrimination is against the law. When you're hiring people, when you're employing people, these are things that are kept uh, a close watch on, because if you discriminate against anyone, you open yourself up to lawsuits. And this is a litigious society, especially here in the United States. And companies just don't want that. They don't want the bad press. And therefore, I think that argument is a silly one. Companies are risk averse. They're not going to do anything that is discriminatory. And if and when it was, they were brought to court, there was legal action taken, and they had to face the consequences and undo whatever it was that was being discriminatory. I know there have been some cases that were billed as DEI cases, and in any case, those things were remedied through, both legislation and litigation. However, I digress. This executive order essentially dismantled DEI programs and mandates across the federal government. And the reasoning was that DEI promoted discrimination, but also wasted taxpayer resources. I think it's absurd. It's an absurd argument. However, I'm willing to hear people who want to have a constructive argument. I don't want offensive language or crazy political diatribes. They'll be taken down. However, if you have a constructive argument to share about why this executive order is correct, please feel free to share in comments. Listen to the other side always. That's a big priority of mine, in fact. Okay, so we need to talk about why I think DEI is not this big boogeyman or this framework that we need to undo, get rid of, or dismantle. Diversity, just on its face, as I said, makes our lives richer, but just thinking about it, if we are trying to solve a very big problem, and we are right now in this country and in this world, there are wars, there is a class divide that we've never seen before with housing problems, and an affordability crisis, the likes of which we haven't seen in decades or perhaps even ever. And AI, as we talk about on this channel all the time, is threatening a bit of our at least job security, shall we say. We don't have much job security to begin with, even before AI. However, now it's threatened even more. And so these are big problems. These are just a few of the things. There's also hosts of disease and a serious threat to democracy in many parts of the world, including our own. And we have to come up with solutions. And when you want to come up with solutions to a problem, there is no better way than getting all the smart people you know who come from different walks of life in different places and putting them together in a room and letting them discuss and use their different perspectives and experiences to come up with ideas. And that's what we need right now. We need brainstorming all day, every day. That's how we're going to innovate. That's how we can stay on the cutting edge of technology. That's how we can, solve some problems for the humans, we the people, so that we can live better lives, more healthier and more prosperous lives. Okay, here are some stats that might help you. The Pew Research Center shared some in 2023, where it showed 56% of employed adults say that in general, focusing on increasing diversity, equity, and inclusion at work is mainly a good thing. The majority of the people, think DEI is mainly a good thing. And of course they do. Again, I think this is just about leveling the playing field. Now, this is not to say there are not different ways of uh, having DEI initiatives, of formatting a DEI leadership group, or uh, having some sort of representation in the company to support DEI efforts. It is true. There are some companies who went way far uh, with DEI programs and perhaps spent too much, had too many workers in that area, and couldn't afford it. There are certainly some initiatives that were just paying lip service to things and not actually getting work done. And of course, companies should take time to see where they can save money appropriately, where they can improve on programs, where they can make sure that the programs they're initiating are more than lip service to equity and inclusion and diversity. All of that should always be said, and we should preface these arguments with that statement. No one is arguing that people should be having programs that are ineffective or that didn't hash out the way we planned them to, and we have to be able to adapt and continuously check on what we're doing. That's different than completely dismantling or worse, bad mouthing and um, really destroying the reputation of what DEI is, what it means. I actually think it's much closer to our values as humans, as Americans, especially. What we hope to be, what we aspire to be, what we want to be when we think of our best selves. I think DEI is right in line with that. It's aligned with those values. And the way it's been presented is not that. Um, so another stat. More than one-third of workers say being a man makes it easier to be successful where they work. Now, these stats, as you might imagine, being a white person also proved, according to the people who responded, to be make it easier to be successful where people work. And these are obvious things. This is not to say that anyone has it easy because no one has it easy in this world. Life is tough, especially right now. And I don't want to say that. However, there are certain privileges that come with being a man, being white, being, of the more traditional typical group. And there's just no way around that. Now, does that mean, again, that anyone should get preferential treatment or we should mistreat someone? Absolutely not. That's not what people are saying when they're suggesting these things. They're simply saying that they want the level playing field. We all should want the level playing field. And it's hard to argue against that. I don't see an argument against everyone having a fair shot. So, next, SAP recently shared some more interesting stats from other sources. They cited McKinsey research that showed companies in the top 25% for ethnic and cultural diversity were 36% more profitable than those in the bottom quarter. When women are well represented in the C-suite, profits can be 50% higher. These are arguments in favor of diversity, in favor of giving women more access to jobs and leadership, to giving people from different cultures and groups a chance at sharing ideas. I think that is the ultimate American ideal. That is, what the Statue of Liberty represents. Anyway, I'm really passionate about this. You might notice. I really think that our differences are the greatest strength that the United States has. And the longer we um, belittle the fact that our diversity is our greatest strength, the less opportunity we have as Americans to stay on the cutting edge, to be as competitive as rivals in countries like China, for instance, when it comes to these technological advancements and solving the big problems facing us today. And so it really makes me excited to share the data, the stats, the reason why you should be considering DEI frameworks. And we don't have to use the word DEI since it has gotten this negative connotation. You can call it whatever you want. You could even call it our program for leveling the playing field. I don't think anyone will be uh, against such a thing. They'd be hard pressed to say, I'm against leveling the playing field. I bet no one wants to say that. No one wants to get caught on a hot mic saying that. So, um, another thing that we learned from the SAP reports was that a Forrester report shows that employees who feel a sense of belonging at work have a 56% increase in job performance at a time when companies are constantly talking about the lack of productivity and efficiency, worrying about people who are working remotely, which is another topic for another day, which we will get to eventually. But at that time, where we're worrying about productivity, we have proof that the diversity helps us be more productive. We perform better. We have more success. Um, and so I really think that we need to reconsider and reframe DEI. You don't want to call it DEI, I don't care. You don't want to reference the old framework. I don't care. Come up with a new framework that has the same goals and aspirations to level the playing field, make sure everyone has access to the same support and resources, make sure that you're looking at a big pool of people and putting together teams that come from all different walks of life, that have all different perspectives. And that doesn't necessarily just mean race, gender, and religion, but socioeconomic differences, differences in backgrounds, differences in the places that we come from and the places we have worked, different experiences that we can share with the group, different experiences that color our responses, our ideas, our ability to brainstorm with you. Okay, that's number two. Number three in the list is that we should all be striving for including each other. We need to fit in. We are social animals. This is something that came up in our previous podcast with Roland Walt. And we need each other. And right now, we have our digital tools, and it is making us be um, lonely. It is giving us this solo type of atmosphere at work and at home. And we need to start relying on one another again. And inclusion is the doorway to that. You want to call it something else, go right ahead. But it is the idea that we are going to welcome each other to our workplaces, to our teams, that we are going to ask people for their ideas, their suggestions, their recommendations, that we are going to be kind to one another. Yes, we are going to ask each other how our days are going. We are going to worry about the wellness of one another. We are going to check in on each other. Yes, I want that to be the kind of place I work at, and I think you do too. So, inclusion is something we all should want. I don't think it's controversial in the least bit to say that we all want a sense of belonging and we should be providing that to one another. It is our responsibility as human beings. This has nothing to do with our jobs. And when you are inclusive, when you talk to people, when you build relationships with people, your life is richer, your ideas are better, and you come up with great, great ideas. You do. You solve big problems also. And finally, I think we should all be promoting one another. We should be promoting our talents, seeing the good in each other, and finding the most talented people for the jobs that we need done. And that can come from any place. And so the framework you create does not have to be called DEI, but it should exist, and you should be doing something about it. And I want to leave you with a quote. You all know I have World Cup fever. At least you know if you've been following our blogs and our social media posts. And one of the players from the USMNT, that's the United States men's national team that just played in the World Cup, his name is Chris Richards. He's a great player. He plays in England for Crystal Palace as well. He said, quote, I think now you've seen the evolution of the game. He's referring to soccer, what the rest of the world calls football, in America. And you can see that within the national team, we have players from all walks of life. You come to camp and hear 12 different accents. There are six different languages going around. We have a Japanese physio, a physio of Indian descent. That's one of the beautiful things about America. And I think we reflect that as a national team. We are really a melting pot of what really makes America America. End quote. I thought what Chris Richards was saying was quite poignant. He is showing that we are a melting pot. We brought together people from all different walks of life, joined by this idea that we could have better lives, we could have better opportunities. That's what brought my immigrant family to the United States in 1960, the desire to have opportunity, to make good on these capitalist ideals. And we should embrace the capitalism, but we should also make sure there's a level playing field, that there are guardrails, that there are checks in place to keep this fair. It's capitalism with fairness. That's kind of what I think DEI is. It is this whole idea of meritocracy and everyone having the chance to pursue those opportunities, to pursue that happiness. And that's what makes America America, is the right way to put it. So thank you, Chris Richards and the USMNT, for reflecting what we all are in your team. So let me know what you think about this. Let's be respectful in the comments because I know this can be a controversial topic, but I do think there are big benefits to having some sort of framework that helps level the playing field, give people the same opportunities, and ensure you're finding the best talent no matter where it comes from. And that's what every business should be trying to do. That's what's going to help you succeed and have that competitive edge. For now, I'm going to leave you with a desire to hear your thoughts and comments and a promise that we'll be back next week with another podcast. I'm not sure if it'll be another confessional or an interview with someone, but we will see you soon. Thank you, and please like, subscribe, and share Still Team Human, both our blog on Substack and our podcast and videos on YouTube. See you next time.